Government ministers have created a contingency plan to introduce new lockdown measures if hospital admissions for COVID continue to rise at the current rate. According to an official source, Express.co.uk asked readers whether they thought another lockdown would stamp out Boris Johnson's hopes of staying in Downing Street for another term, and they shouted a resounding yes. On Tuesday, reports emerged that the government has drawn up plans for an October firebreak lockdown in response to concerns that the NHS cannot cope with the rising hospitalizations occurring across the country. But the British public has warned Boris Johnson against the move. A majority of voters, 65%, said Boris will not hold on to power if a firebreak lockdown is called. In a poll of 2,982 people held from 2 p.m. September 7 and 12 p.m. September 10, one reader remarked, "No more lockdowns. The lifting of restrictions is irreversible," said Boris. "The government will have to go or be brought down if they break this promise. Enough is enough. Normal life must resume," a voter replied. "Who will vote Conservative after this? Boris Johnson cannot be trusted. So it doesn't matter what he promises, nobody will believe him anymore. He has got to go." Another simply commented, "Stuff Johnson, stuff the Conservatives, stuff lockdowns." The number of people admitted to hospital with COVID is over 6 times higher now than it was at the beginning of September last year. COVID deaths are also approximately 15 times higher. A senior scientist working with the government said, "We are going to be at a peak, albeit an extended peak, quite soon, so it's not really the same situation as last year, when failure to reduce prevalence would have resulted in collapse of NHS and people dying in car parks. Hospitals might be overflowing before deaths reach the same level. Acting early will prevent this level." From the end of September 2020 to the end of January 2021, COVID deaths went from an average of 32 per day to 1,286. The government are hoping that the successful rollout of the vaccine this year will prevent such a high peak. A policy advisor for the government said deaths from COVID are unlikely to hit the levels as seen last autumn because the vaccines are doing the job. But instead worried that the admissions that will push the NHS to the brink of collapse if they do not fall soon. When pressed on whether a firebreak lockdown has been planned, Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi did not respond directly and instead said, "The booster program is his absolute priority as it will absolutely help us to transition the virus from pandemic to endemic status." Yesterday it was reported that booster vaccines will start being given to the elderly within the next 2 weeks. A COVID passport scheme will also be introduced for entry into mass events and nightclubs. Scotland will enforce the measure from October 1 and the rest of the UK is due to follow shortly after.